a lot. I think we talked a little bit about Impossible Germany because of Nels mentioning that he is a fan of the repeated riff. And we had some great guitar talk, great jazz talk, he was just a great guy. Very nice. And I got to see the show that night at the Musical Instrument Museum with my buddy Chris Ayers, who's another huge Wilco fan. And the show was incredible. It's the Nels Cline 4. They're touring on the back of the album they released last year, Currents, Constellations, which if you heard the Best of 2018 Music episode that I did with Ashley and F. Toole, you'll know that was a top 10 album for me, one of my favorites of last year. But experiencing it live is incomparable. They have just such a great band and all amazing musicians, and it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite jazz combos. I love bass, guitar, drums, and it's two guitarists and Julian Lage, and he's also just fucking incredible guitarist. And Nels is on tour as the Nels Cline 4 through the next couple of weeks, up through February 20th. The day I'm recording the intro for this, actually, they're playing Ophelia's Electric Soapbox in Denver, but you'll have missed that if you didn't already go, because this doesn't drop until Monday. But Monday night they're playing the State Room in Salt Lake City. They're playing the Visual Arts Collective in Garden City, Idaho. And then they're hitting their Seattle and Portland shows are already sold out, but there's a second Portland show that got added for Valentine's Day at Mississippi Studios. So get your tickets for that. They're hitting up California, hitting Arcata, Berkeley, San Diego, Highland Park. So go to nelscline.com/shows and you can see the dates that are coming up for that. And I'm going to get out of the way here and let you hear that conversation I had with him and talk to you a little bit on the other side. That's insane. That would be insane gig really cool. Is pretty much.
And of course, everyone who knows Mavis loves her, and she's amazing. But anyway, okay, let's talk.
Yeah, let's. You just actually, I was talking back and forth with my buddy Jason, who you just talked to for the New Times a few days ago. I'm sure you do all sorts of press, but
little bits.
Yeah, he was. I let him know that this had gotten scheduled, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Nels is awesome. You'll have a great time." So. Yeah.
Good.
He said he was nervous initially because he's a huge fan, and then he said you were really nice. And
he was super sweet actually, and he did seem a little nervous.
But have you? I know that Wilco's toured through here a lot, but have you spent much time in Arizona yourself?
No, actually, and actually, I'm trying to remember. I know I played at Modified Arts.
Oh wow! So that has to be a number of years ago because I can't remember the last time there was a show there.
Yeah. That was probably maybe in the year 2000 or something. I don't know. It was probably with Carla Bozulich and maybe when the Singers were backing her.
Gotcha.
Or it was Scott Amendola Band. I don't really remember what it was. Before that, it was rock shows with the Fibbers or with Mike Watt at Gibson's.
Oh, yeah.
And other than that, I can't remember if I did a Singers gig anywhere around here. I know we played Club Congress in Tucson at some point, I'm pretty sure. But I really rarely get to play my own music on tour at all because it's hard to schedule and it's hard to afford it, actually.
Well, Wilco's on the road a lot anyway. And yeah. That's that always fascinates me. A lot of the people that I've interviewed that are touring musicians are often just on their own because that's all that they can afford. And then from a music fan perspective, it's hard to wrap my head around it a little bit. I'm like how is there just not, tons of people wanting to go see it, but that's because I was talking to I had interviewed Robin Hitchcock and was talking to him about that.
Yeah, he was doing some stuff with Pat from Wilco. Pat Sansone was playing with him this last year.
Yeah, and I know I talked to Lou Barlow, and he was also talking about Sebadoh getting off the road for a while because it just became not economical for them to be touring like that. But.
Yeah, if the guarantees aren't ridiculously, shall we say, ample, and you have any overhead, it's and you're an adult. We're adults now.
Sure. So
if you have adult responsibilities, which I kind of don't because I never had kids or anything, but it's really hard. It's really hard. I mean, I feel like certain people know how to tour endlessly and come home with some bread. Excuse me. Come home with some bread. People like Mike Watt or Deerhoof, for example.
Yeah.
But I haven't toured that way in a long time, and certainly the people that I play with who one might generally call jazz musicians, that they are not going to tour that way. I'm not even going to ask them. So, just that super econo indie rock style.
Right. It's
very wear and tear heavy. It's not easy unless you're just absolutely dedicated to it and you know how to make it work for you. It's much more punishing and not always all that fun if you're not into that.
Yeah, it seems like some people are just cool with the lifestyle, and I don't know. It's again from the fan perspective, it's like you just don't think about that side of it, I guess, and until like I haven't had to travel a lot until I started doing both the podcasting, and then my company also does publishing. And so this next month we're going to we're publishing a book and having a launch event for it in San Francisco, and then going up to this publishing writers and publishers event in Portland. That's like a week after that. So then having to coordinate all of that and get the time off from the day gig because that's what pays the bills, and then get the cheapest lodging for that, and get all the merchandise up to Portland, and it's.
I have help now. I didn't used to.
Yeah.
Certainly the advent of Wilco changed my life in many ways. And one of the significant ways, besides what one might term wider recognition, has been that I have help, So I have a manager, things like that, that I never even really was aspiring to have. And I'm a guy who needs help. So coordinating all that kind of stuff is certainly not my strength, and to have people for whom it's their business and who do it with grace and aplomb is of great value to me. And so putting, for example, this NC4 tour together was really easy because I barely did anything.
That's got to be that. How was the transition from having to do your own booking and figuring out logistics to being able to call a guy? How that must have been a huge.
I'll be honest, I was never good at logistics, so I basically didn't do it. You can ask Scott Amendola and Devin Hoff about those early attempts at runs with the Singers, my band, the Nels Cline Singers. I was hopeless. Just not good at putting a tour together, as opposed to somebody like Scott Amendola or Carla Bozulich, with whom I used to play a lot after the Geraldine Fibbers, who was very tenacious and able to cobble together some kind of tour dates and a plan, as it were. But watching how much energy was expended on that, I just thought, I'd rather just play with somebody who has it all together and learn
Let them
from
do
playing
the-
his or her music, or
Sure.
and I also not really particularly ambitious in terms of, I guess, doing my own music, to be honest. You know, I mean, I like doing it, and I'm ambitious about the music itself, but the exposure or the dissemination of the music isn't really something I've been very tenacious about, to be
Gotcha.
honest. You know?
Well, I mean, and in all honesty, full disclosure, before Wilco, I was not familiar with your work at all.
Yeah,
And
see?
then I would go back. I had these Mike Watt records, and then I would go back and be like, "Oh, you were playing on that too." And then it's kind of like Mark Ribot, who I knew from Tom Waits, and then playing with Elvis Costello and playing on all sorts of, you know, you have like your ear out for that sound. Like you can be into, or at least I do. As I learned guitar, I developed an ear for being able to say, like, you know, and having favorite guitarists, and I would be able to say, "Oh, that's so and so playing on there."
Well, good luck with me, because I don't think I have a style, really.
No, you're very like chameleoid, and
Right. I'm
that's
just trying to serve the music. I mean, and I guess maybe it's a potential drawback, you know, not to have this recognizable sound, which I think a lot of younger musicians, even when I was starting out, which was a long time ago, aspired to. And I think that I used to think about things like that, like what's my style or what's my sound, and that sort of fell away when I started playing with effects pedals and all the stuff I hadn't aspired to do at all. It gave the sonic potential of the instrument a much broader sonic and emotional, or expressive, I guess I should say, scope. And that kind of vastness fires my imagination, and then my imagination can come up with a lot of different, I guess, uses for such, you know, effects pedals and these things, which I don't really use all the time. I mean, I play a lot of acoustic music, certainly, ever since I started playing. But that is intrinsic to the electric guitar, I think, that kind of potential vastness or chameleon quality, whatever you want to call it. And that, I think, works well for my imagination. You know, it's much easier for me to fit into the idea of a kind of sonic identity than a style or voice that's instantly recognizable. And I used to really worry about that, you know, honestly. But, you know, certainly coming up, listening to people and admiring them so much, like John Scofield, for example. And you can recognize Sco in like 2 seconds. You know, nobody sounds like that. And I admire him so much on so many levels as a composer, not just as a guitar player. But particularly, I find his sound and style to be so singular that I envy it a little bit, you know, and I just think, damn, you know. Rebo's really kind of chameleonic as well.
Yeah.
You know? So, and he and I have played together and are friendly, and I love Mark so much on so many levels. But he's a slippery character. You know, he has a lot of different facets to how he expresses himself, and how he appears, even in a session situation. So I think that though stylistically we may be different, we do have this in common, I think.
Yeah. Well, he was somebody, I mean, certainly Waits in the 80s had a very specific, almost like German cabaret sound, and so it seemed like there was a thread of that kind of playing that, because then when he was on an Elvis Costello album, and as soon as that track that he was playing on Hurry Down Doomsday started playing, I'm like, okay, that's got to be Mark Ribot. And but I would say, you know, that chameleonic quality, certainly, at least for Wilco, even though they were starting to really expand well beyond, you know, the alt country moniker, with even as far back as Summer Teeth, and then getting into Yankee, and then all of that. By the time you're joining, and you can